Welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about symmetry. And when we talk about symmetry, that means that we have the same amount of things on the left-hand side of the image as we do on the right-hand side of the image, or top and bottom, depending on how you're going about this. It doesn't need to be a mirror image, like an exact copy, but it should be pretty close to the same amount of things on either side. So in order to do this, we are going to be looking at playing cards. So here I've got 3 different decks of cards, and you can see that from each one, they are all very different as far as the size of the image, as well as the detail involved with them. Now with cards, what is the same throughout all of them is that the King of Diamonds has a battle axe, the Queen of Diamonds has a little flower, the Jack has a little sword here. And then, so they all have kind of the same thing. So that's something that is kind of consistent throughout all of the decks of cards. So they each individual suit or card for each suit has a similar thing. So that is something that we can think about. Now, the way that we're going to do this, you don't necessarily have to make a traditional playing card. If you want to have an image that is something that is totally off the wall, that doesn't represent a jack, a queen, or a king, that's fine. There are definitely playing card sets out there that don't follow along with this style. But we still need to have the letter, we still need to have the suit that is underneath it, and then we need to have the suit that is inside of these. If you notice that all of these have a rectangle that is contains the image on the card. So some of them are a little bigger, some of them are a little smaller. It just all depends on the size of the letter. I know my grandma has a set that the letters are very, very large and the image is very, very small. So it all depends on how you want to make that look. Now, in order to do this, we're going to do some thumbnails. Although with this, we need to be a little more precise than what we usually are when we do a thumbnail. We want to make our rectangles 2.5 inches across the top, and we want to make them 3.5 inches down the side. And the reason for this is that is the size of a standard playing card. So we want to kind of get a feel for how these are going to look. Now we want to decide if we're going to have a large box around the outside of it, or if we're going to have a small box. And that should be something that is going to be fairly standard as far as measurement goes. We want to make it on this, it's going to be about 1/4 inch or centimeter, depending on how you're going to look at these things. But make sure that it is consistent all the way around. That's too little on the small side there. Okay, so once we do this, you need to decide, are you going to make a jack, are you going to make a queen, or are you going to make a king? And then, so once you do that, say, all right, I'm going to make, for this one, I'm going to make a king. So I'm going to have a K that's in here like this. And you want to make your own type of style. We've talked about fonts in the past, so we want to make sure that we have a unique looking shape there, and say, oh, it's going to be a diamond. So you want to have your own shape of a diamond here. Now with the way that a regular card is, we're also going to have a diamond that is going to fit right next to it. I'm not for sure why they repeat like this, but that's the way that it is. Now, one of the things that we want to do as well is, because this is going to be a mirror image, we only have to draw the top half of it. So we want to find the halfway point. So half of 3.5 is going to be 1 3/4. So we're going to draw a line across there, and then through the width of it, 2.5. So that is going to be, quick math, it's going to be 1 1/4. So right there, just so that way we have kind of some guidelines put in. Now, we don't have to draw both the top and the bottom, because it is going to be a mirror, so we only need to draw it out on the top half. So if you want to go a little more traditional like this, if we look at the King of Diamonds, King of the Diamonds is the one that has the battle axe. So however your design is going to be, that's the way that it's going to look. And in the 6 different decks that I looked at, all of the King of Diamonds, they all have a single eye, and they all face to the left. So if you want to follow the traditions of the decks, that's how they're going to be. All the other kings, the spade, the heart, and the club, they all have 2 eyes. So that's kind of how we can go along with that. So lay it out like this, so that way you gotta get an idea, and then you can start to sketch stuff in. So here I've got one that is a little more cubistic. It's a little more geometric as far as everything is being pointy. So this is the King of Hearts. So my heart is a little pointy there. And with the King of Hearts, they always have a sword that goes through their head like this. So that's kind of how I went. The other one here is a Jack of Spades, and they have a little scepter in their hand. So that is how I went about with this. Gave him a big mustache and had his hat kind of pop up through the top of that little border, just to give it a little bit of variety. So you say, all right, I'm gonna do this one, check mark. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your piece of paper, we're gonna go in and we are going to measure out. So for this particular one, I came in 1 inch and, what is that, ½ quarter, 1 inch and 3/8 all the way around, and made my interior line. And to get that all drawn out, and then once you get it all drawn out, then it comes the fun part, because we have to replicate this. Now, instead of trying to copy it and get everything just right, what we're going to do is take a blank piece of paper, and this one already has a drawing on it. So we're going to take our blank piece of paper and we're going to put this over the top of our image. And we're going to either go to the light box, or we're going to go over to the window or the door, and we're going to trace it. So I'm going to go like this here. So we've got, and we're going to outline everything. We're going to put our little marks in the corners, so that way we know where that is. So that's kind of a registration mark. And we have a replica of what we're doing. So we're going to take this, we're going to spin this around like this here, and then that's going to go underneath. And when you go back to the light box or go to the window, you'll be able to see that image underneath here. And you're going to trace that image over the top. So that way you're going to end up with 2 sides of your card that are finished. So we can see I've got a top half and I got a bottom half. You might have to do a little bit of tweaking to get your design to look right and to flow. And just by happenstance, when I laid this guy out, he ended up with a waist. So we've got a torso here, and we've got his arm coming forward that kind of pops out from underneath. So it gives it a little bit of a neat design, just purely by mistake on my part. But we want to have kind of a nice design here. So you might have to balance some things out a little bit, do a little bit of measuring to try to get your things to look the way that they need to do. And then you're going to take either an ultra fine point Sharpie or a fine point Sharpie, depending on what you have to do. And we're going to fill that in, so that way we have an image that is inked. Now, at some point in all this too, we want to take either a template or take a cap of a marker or something that's round, and we're going to come down here in the corner and we're going to make even circles all the way around, so that way when this is all said and done, we can cut those off. So we just want to have those little marks there. So we're going to get this thing completely inked, and we are working with a limited color palette, whether you're doing a traditional style like this, or if you're doing something that is a little off the walls and is a non-traditional playing card. Well, we want to work with a limited color palette because of the printing process. Because every time that you put a different color down, that is a different color plate that has to be made. So in playing cards like this, they would put the yellow down, then they would put the red over the top of that, and then if there's blue, they put the blue over the top of that, and then black would be printed last, and that would make everything all nice and clean. So we want to kind of think about that same thing, whether you're doing something traditional or doing something rather irregular and non-traditional. So we're going to work with black as our one color, and then we're working with either 2 colors or 3 colors. So fairly limited in what we do as far as color schemes go, but it'll work out really nice because we don't want to get things to be too crazy with our overall design. Now we are going to be using markers to fill this in, so we get a nice, clean, smooth, even look. So we take this, and we've got our extra colors here. So I did yellow and blue and red, went with the traditional colors that we see in playing cards, and made it look kind of balanced out. We got a little bit of blue on either side. We got a little bit of red on either side. Nothing is over the top to where it is, a lot going on. And then you can see the corners are cut off, or not cut off, but they're rounded off to make it look like a real playing card. All right, so that is our lesson for the day. So good luck. Happy drawing.